Draw this cute snail with me in Adobe Illustrator. I'll start by getting my colour palette, highlight the colours I want, click on Fill, create a new folder and call it Snail. And this gives me all the colours I'll need for my drawing. I don't need this anymore, so I can delete it to give me some more space. And then I select the ellipse tool, get it to about that size, but all these things can be adjusted later on. I'm going to use a 4-point stroke, and I've got this pale yellow colour and a brown colour for the outline. I then add some extra anchor points using the pen tool, and then with the direct select tool I can drag to try and make that snail tail. Whenever I need a new point, I'm going to the pen tool, and then I'm adjusting it with the direct select tool. There's a lot of adjusting those handles, using the direct select tool, and just getting those lines curved how I want them. Remember, you need to click the points before you can edit them and get the drag handles and move them around. This just takes a little bit of practice. Just keep on adjusting those points until you get a similar shape to mine. When you're about happy with that shape, you can use something called the Smooths tool. And the Smooth tool can be used just to tidy up your drawing a little bit if you're not quite happy with it. So we're just using the Smooth tool here, and then you can drag this slider around until you get to that more polished look. There we go. So now I'm going to use the rectangle tool, get it roughly where I need it to be, and then rotate by just grabbing those just on the outside of the corners. Then you can use the curving tool to just curve, to put it on a bit of an angle. And then if you're not quite happy with the width, then you can drag out slightly. We're now going to add the ellipse tool, holding down shift to get that perfect circle. Place it on the top. And then if you highlight both of those sections, you can use the shape builder tool and just draw over the two of them, and it will join those two together. And now you've got one side, you can copy and paste with Control C, Control V, and that gives you two of them, and then you can just reflect using that Object, Transform, Reflect tool. I want mine to slightly overlap and sit in the centre, and then I send to back using Control and the left square bracket on my keyboard. Next we're going to focus on those eyes, and I like to zoom in for this part so that I can really see it clearly. I'm going to set up my colours using the same colour that's on the stroke, that brown colour. And I'm going to do a perfect circle by holding down Shift. And then I'm going to work on the white highlights of the eyes to get that. Oops, if you make a mistake, you can just go to Edit and Undo, that's fine. And then there we go. So we're going to do a small white circle. And then we're going to do a larger white circle next to it. And that gives us our cute little highlight for the eyes. This is what makes the character super, super cute. And with all my characters, I like to make them look like a cohesive group of characters. So I try to make sure that the eyes and the mouth and the rosy cheeks are similar on each character. And this helps to keep the consistency so it looks like a group that belong together. Drawing a straight line for the mouth, making sure to use the round cap on the edge, and then using that curve pen tool to just make the smile. Just adjusting it until I'm happy. And then position in the centre. Next, the mouth, with a smaller ellipse tool, using that pink fill colour, and then using the direct select tool, clicking on that top point, and dragging it down to make that mouth, and putting it in place. For the rosy cheeks, we're going to use the ellipse tool again, no stroke, and use a slightly different shade. It's like a purpley pink. And then getting that direct select tool again, clicking on the point, just dragging it up slightly. And then you can copy and paste with Control C, Control V, and you can do that other rosy cheek. Righty ho, so we have the basic body shape and the face. Just going to zoom out. And now we're going to add a little bit of shadow. And we do this by making sure that that body has got a stroke on the outside. When you do this, you might just want to adjust very slightly. It is more helpful if you do that first, but I'd forgotten. And then we copy and paste in place, and we remove that stroke, and then copy and paste in place, and we move that top layer over slightly, change the colour of that part underneath so it becomes a shadow, highlight or select both of those by holding Shift, and I'm holding down Alt on my keyboard and then clicking on those parts that I want to remove. Now we're going to work on that shell. So I'm going to use the fill tool. And I'm going to go for a perfect circle by holding down Shift and then just play around with the layout a little bit until I get it about where I need it to be. making sure that I add that 4-point stroke on again to keep my images consistent. They've all got a 4-point stroke. Sending to back using that control and left square bracket. And then just adjusting. To add that spiral on the snail, you're going to need to click on the 3 dots and get your spiral tool. And then you can just drag to roughly the size that you would like it to be. And then just play around with the rotation and the positioning and the size until you're happy with how that's looking. You can also adjust the parts of the spiral by clicking on the direct select tool, and you can see those points then, so you can click on them and you can drag them around to make it look a little bit more playful, a bit less perfect. Fantastic. So now we're going to add a little highlight to that shell. So I'm just using the line tool and selecting a very light grey, using that curve tool to just curve it to match with the shell. Making sure that I use round cap, and then I can just go in and just adjust the angle slightly and the size as I need to. I'm quite happy with my snail. Now I just want to add a little accessory. You can choose any accessory that you like, but I like my flower. So I'm going to go with the ellipse tool, and I'm going to fill it with my pink colour. No stroke for the moment. Draw a perfect circle holding down Shift. And then we can use the Illustrator tool to Object, Repeat, Radial, and you can adjust it as you need to. There are 3 different points on there that you can adjust that allow you to play around with that shape. And when you're happy, go to Object, Expand, OK, and then click on the Pathfinder tool and just join that shape together. And now you can add your stroke to the outside of that whole object, keeping that consistent 4 points. We can repeat the same process again for the inside of the flower. I'm going to use a yellowy colour this time. No stroke. Drawing that perfect circle. Object, repeat, radial, and then we want to Object, Expand, and the Pathfinder tool. And just drag it over. Adjust the size as you need to. And then you can add a little white circle on the inside as well, just to finish off your flower. And there we are. We have a finished, cute snail drawn in Adobe Illustrator. Now, if you want to use this somewhere else, especially in a scratch project, a good idea is to go to File, export, export as, and I'm going to export it as an SVG so that I can use it in my Scratch projects. So now when I go to a great free programming language that's available online called Scratch, I can add my character. I can upload it as a sprite. I can adjust the size of it. And now I can code and animate my snail in this program. And if I want to adjust the size, just any part of my character, I can do it in the Paint tool within Scratch. If you want to use my snail, then you can go to the Flip Computing Studio and click on Assets, and you can find all the characters that I've drawn in this series. And if you want them all together in one Scratch project, then you can use that from our Assets Studio. And everything is editable.